Hello again. It's me here in Spain in my office. So recently I've been talking about the books that I've been reading, and I've been really excited and about like sharing the stories with my family, and I thought I would just share randomly the stories with you guys. So I'm gonna just go through a few of my books that it's been like not in the last couple days that I read them, but it's been in the last like month or two that I've finished some or started some and have been excited about like reading them or have read them. This one was one of the first ones that I picked up and finished really quick. I grew up listening to country music, and he's a legend. And if you don't know who Willie Nelson is, please just Google him. um, and check out Farm Aid, because he's the founder of Farm Aid, and it's such a great cause. It's a great book. It explains his life. It's called My Life. It's a long story. It explains like how he became who he is, and his story is really interesting and inspirational, especially in these times when people are looking to change and they might not know how. So I love reading biographies where you can get an idea of like, how did he do it, you know? And this makes it seem, I don't want to say simple, but like he went his own way and it worked, and it was different and it worked. And he's awesome. Check it out. Check it out. All right, then I went for a really long walk thinking about that book. I don't really want to talk about it too much because just because you should read it. Another one that you should read and I should not talk about too much is this one. This book, I actually just ordered a used copy on Amazon and sent it to somebody because I was like, you need to read this. So much that I'll buy it for you and just send it to your house for you. It's Joshua, The Homecoming by Joseph Girzone, who retired from being a priest, and then became a writer and an international speaker. And it is like a portrait of Jesus. And what's really cool about this book is that he writes as if Jesus is one of us. Like literally Jesus is walking around and like visiting different households and different people in the US. And it's like right before the year 2000 when everyone was kind of panicking, like it's gonna be the end of the world. And with the 1999 to 2000 like change there, like he comes into their lives in this time before it changes to 2000, and during so much panic in the world and in the US and people's minds and hearts and stuff, and he teaches. And this book teaches you like Jesus and who he would be if he was like a real person, and how he would talk, how it's amazing. Just read this book. It's amazing. It's amazing. What else? So I just finished that book. Oh, I just finished this book. Oh, I read this one in 2 days, less than 2 days. Life Lessons from a 5-time NFL championship coach. He actually only was a head coach for 10 seasons and never lost, never had a losing record. Vince Lombardi. I bought this book at the Packer Pro Shop in Green Bay. There is a reason why the Super Bowl trophy is called the Vince Lombardi Trophy. He's amazing, a legend. And the author of this book, there's two of them that co-wrote this book, and they interviewed like everyone who worked with him ever, and anyone who was super influenced by him. And the book is just full of quotes from all these people who he's influenced. And wow, it's amazing. It goes through like what it meant, like what kind of person he was, and how he was such a good leader, and how he was such a good coach, and the character traits that he had. And you know, this person lays it out in 7 different like skill sets for leadership, and talks a lot. I mean, the book is about Vince Lombardi on leadership, that's what it's called, but it talks about, you know, his vision, his communication skills, his people skills, the character of the man. Did you know that he went to school to be a priest for 4 years, and then he quit, and then became a high school teacher, and then he was a coach, and then he was another coach, and then he was an NFL coach. And there's so much history about him in this book. He went to church every single day, pretty much his entire life, every single morning. That is amazing. So the character, his competence, and his boldness, his serving heart. And it says that he none of all of these skills mean anything if not for a serving heart. Like, if you didn't have that, and if you don't as a leader have that, then it would just be him bossing everyone around, and that's not how he was. That's not how he wanted to be. And he was a great coach. Like, the people that are interviewed in this book about him, they talk about him with such high regard. Like, they say, he made more of a difference in my life than my own dad, or he still influences my life. Like, I am who I am because of Coach Lombardi. And a lot of people that he's touched their lives, coached them not only in football, but he was teaching them life lessons, you know, and they carried that away from football afterwards. And what a cool book to read. It was amazing. And I'm from Wisconsin, so he was the coach of the Green Bay Packers in the 60s. And he coached for, he took the Green Bay Packers from a losing team to a winning team again. And unfortunately, he passed away too soon. So that one I read just recently. What else? Okay, moving on. Let's see, talking about leadership still, I guess. I started this one. I have never read one of his books, but of course I've seen tons of his videos, and I've like listened to him a lot and read a lot about him and stuff, like for years and years and years. Like, he is a giant. This man is a giant, and very powerful, and amazing coach as well, but more, you know, not a head coach of a sports team. He's a life coach, but, you know, it says, take immediate control of your mental, emotional, physical, and financial destiny. Awaken the giant within. Cool, eh? I don't know, I think this is one of his, like, most famous books. I read the first, like, let's see, the first 25 pages, and I did not want to put it down at all, but I had to, because it's a big book, and I needed to write a speech recently, so I did not have time to get into it. And I feel like when I've started again, which is soon, I'm not going to want to put it down. I know a lot of people have, like, a lot of knowledge about him and have been studying him for a while now, so it's time for me to read at least one of his books. I've got a few of his books, actually, but I've never picked them up to read them, and I should. So staying on leadership, this one, I'm listening to it as an audiobook, and sometimes I'm reading where she leaves off, like while she's speaking it. So it's cool, like, to listen to her, but I have to keep rewinding. So when I listen to the audiobook and I read along, it's a lot better. Focus is a good thing, right? Because when I'm listening to the audiobook, usually I'm like doing the dishes or something like that. So I bought this book like, I don't know, a while ago, like at least 5 years ago. And just like a year ago, I think I got like a special offer or something, and I just bought the audiobook for really cheap, and then I found this book again, and I'm like, oh, I have that one. So that's oops, but it's kind of cool to like read it while she's talking. Like I said, what else? Brene Brown. If you don't know who she is, check out her TED Talks on vulnerability. Amazing, cutting edge, like leading leader. She's a sociologist, and what she's talking about is amazing, and it is inspiring. And being brave enough to be vulnerable, which is what I'm trying to do by sharing myself on video. We'll see, which is not easy for me either. Anyways, this book I've been reading for a while. I just showed my family tonight. Oops, that way. I have had, like, somebody in my family said, where'd you get all these books from? And I said, well, I've brought them with me as I've been traveling, or, you know, I go back to Wisconsin and I load my suitcase up with books that I've had for a long time, but I never had a chance to read. So I have a chance to read, or I just want them to be part of my home library. So I've brought a lot with me. I you know, buy used books. I have a bookstore, actually, kind of in the making, and I buy books a lot, but I'm finally getting a chance to read them, so that's great. This one, it's called Islands, Portraits of Miniature Worlds. Who writes this? Young? I don't know, I think it's a pretty old book, because I think I bought this 20 years ago and never picked it up to start reading it. Copyright 1999. Yeah, first printing 1999. And I this is like the table of contents. So it's like a chapter on islands. Like each chapter is a different island in the world, and the last chapter is the Earth as an island in the universe. How cool is this? I've read about Hawaii's archipelago. I've read about Easter Island, and I started reading about the Galapagos, and how she's writing about these islands and relating each island to the world and what we can learn from what happens on islands. Oh, it's amazing, because it's right at the end. It's going to explain to me what this all has to do with the greater picture, and the greater picture is the Earth as an island in the universe. Cool. Interesting. I lived in Hawaii for a while, so like, it's always fascinated me. Islands always fascinated me. Okay, what else? This one I'm really waiting to start. It is, let's see, Robin Braiding Sweetgrass. It's called Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teachings of Plants. So I bought this book recently. I saw this years ago and totally wanted to buy it, and I never did until just recently. And when I bought this one, I got this one as well, because it was like recommended, and I read about it and I was like, whoa, I want to read that. So it's the author is a mother scientist and decorated professor, botanist. She is in the US and she's a member of the Potawatomi Nation. And I used to work for the Potawatomi Nation in Milwaukee. And I come from a place called Menominee Falls. I just have a lot of interest in the natives. And growing up in Wisconsin, that's part of my culture, even though I'm not Native American. It's just part of your culture. I have this book as well, The Wisdom of the Native Americans, and I've read parts of it, but anyways, once I get into reading Braiding Sweetgrass, I might also pick up this book about natives more seriously. But this book, Vitamin N, super cool. I've been talking about it in some of the videos that I've made and not released yet. I mean, you kind of don't even have to read the book. Like, just read the cover, like Vitamin N. I'm sorry to Richard Louv, but 500 ways to enrich the health and happiness of your family and community and combat nature deficit disorder. Vitamin N, Vitamin Nature. The essential guide to a nature-rich life. Not saying that that's all you need and that's it, but it's a really cool concept to call it something so simple. And I grew up full of nature, and so this topic is also very, very near and dear to me, as I'm not living in my homeland anymore at the moment. And my culture of nature in my own home is it's different from my childhood now. And anyways, this author has written multiple books about the topic, and so I'm sure that this book is going to be extremely useful, extremely good. I'm positive that this book is worth I think it was $9. Great to have around in the house. I'm excited to read that, but I'm just gonna finish what I'm doing here, and that's about it for now. I have so many more books. Here, there's books everywhere popping out of me. And I have 3 more that I was talking to my family about. So I'll just share the other 3 with you too. These are Emotional Intelligence. That's an audiobook. And this is emotional intelligence activities for managers. So I have an English student, and we've been basically going over the stuff in this book. She's very advanced English, and so we are taking a topic like emotional intelligence, and we are breaking it down and studying it together. And what's cool is that there's so many different words that the first thing that you have to do when you start studying emotional intelligence is define your emotions and define emotions, put them into words, put emotions into words. And that means to broaden your vocabulary. And, it's not just about happy, sad, mad, and grumpy. There are more than 7 dwarfs. There are so many different emotions, and they all are, labeled in different ways, and you feel them in different ways. And anyways, it's a very important topic. I think everyone should definitely check out information about EI. It is super, super important to learn about that. And I love to learn about things that will make me a better person, and that definitely makes you a better person. So let's see. I'm living in Spain. I have studied Spanish for about 7 years, but that was a long time ago. And after I studied Spanish, I moved to Germany, and just my brain just went woo. So after 7 years in Germany, I moved to Spain, and now I'm having to study Spanish again, believe it or not. So I have this book just as an example. I had to study Spanish again. I have to like get my mind into it again, and I've been here for 2 years, and that's quite enough time to have a grip on it again. And that's basically what I have, is like I'm remembering things, it's popping back into my head, I'm getting used to it again, but I'm definitely not fluent. It's gonna take a long time for me ever to say that I'm fluent in a language. And even though I have that base of Spanish, I need to study. I'm sure people that know me, that see this video, are like, yes. I speak pretty confidently, but I know that I'm making a mess of it. But I'm getting better. I have Spanish classes, and I'm studying finally again. But language learning is always like this. If you've ever been immersed for a long period of time in a language that's not your own, you will know that it's not just like you don't just learn it immediately and it sticks, or you don't just, I don't know, some of it, it's hard to pin any of that down, because everyone learns differently. Everyone takes a longer time to put it into practice, and once you start being able to put it into practice, it takes you a long time to perfect it. You can, I started playing softball when I was 3, but I wasn't any good until I was I don't know, maybe 10. And that, I mean, just because I played every single day and I started every single day, I didn't get good right away. And sometimes some people do, and sometimes it takes longer for other people. One thing that I do learn about language learning, and I've been a language teacher as well, but I love to tell people that, something my German teacher taught me, actually, that when children start speaking, they don't just start speaking immediately. They've got years of listening first. They've got years of just hearing the language, hearing the words. And then once they start hearing it, of course, when they're born, or maybe before they're born, they start hearing it. Then they start understanding it. And then they start speaking. So it's in that order that you learn languages, at any age. So, I was hard on myself in Germany because I did not speak Deutsch, and I didn't speak it very well at all. And I did not go there with any level of the language. I started learning as soon as I got there, and I had work to do with my job the entire time I was there. So my studying of the language was secondary or tertiary. So yeah, when she said that, that was towards the end of my life, or my time in Germany. That was towards the end, and she said it's normal that you're not talking first. It's normal that it takes you time, and some kids don't start speaking right away at the same age as other kids. So you will hear it, you will learn it, you will start understanding it, and then you start practicing it, and when you start speaking, and when you start speaking as a child, you are not sounding like the most intelligent person. And it takes a while to practice. So I think the point where I'm at is there's still lots of vocabulary to learn. There's still lots of grammar to learn for me, or remind myself. Of course, you don't just like learn for 7 years in the US and then just expect to like go live abroad and perfectly speak the language. You don't. I'm sorry. My Spanish teachers were marvelous, awesome people, and I had a better take on the language maybe when I was back in school in the US. But also, we don't learn Spain Spanish in the US, or I didn't at least. So coming here and coming to this part, they have accents, they have dialects, and they have a different they have different words. They conjugate different verbs like differently, and so it's continuous process of learning. And on that note, the last book that I'm reading, and I have started reading in the last 2 years, maybe 2.5 years, is Nuevo Testament. I have this one is in English, and that is the Complete Bible, and that's Old Testament and New Testament in English, and this is my heart. And I have this one, and it's just the New Testament, and it's in Spanish and English, and I have read the complete New Testament in my version in English, and I've read much of the Old Testament. Not all of the Old Testament, but most of it, or much of it, I should say. But this version was given to me as a gift by one of my mentors here, and he doesn't speak English. Just gave me the New Testament and this version of it so that I could read it in Spanish and learn. And what's great about this is because he has given me copies of the Bible in Spanish before, and I'm just like, I am not there. Like, that's a difficult book to read and in my own language. So I tried, but it was just I want to read it in my own language first. So that's what I've been doing. And now I've picked this up in the last like couple weeks actually, and I read one chapter a day, or one chapter every other day, or sometimes 2 chapters in a day. Like, that's basically my pace, but it doesn't matter your pace, just that's what I'm doing. And what's cool about this is like, so I'm on chapter 15 of Mateo. So Mateo is Matthew. So I'm on capítulo 15, and it's in Spanish on this side of the page and in English on this side of the page. And that is how the whole thing is. And it's brilliant. It's just brilliant. It's not the easiest translation for me, but I have a solid enough grip on Spanish to like, the English helps for sure. But it's great for me to read it in Spanish and read in Spanish and read the Bible in Spanish. It's reading the Bible is something that I just need to do every day. I have to read a little bit of it every day. Sometimes I don't. There's been times that in the last couple years where it's like we're traveling or something and I don't, and I just feel like a much better person when I am reading the Bible. I mean, it's character building and cultural and historical, and I mean, you read the teachings of Jesus and you hopefully will fall in love with him. And the New Testament is Jesus. That's the Christian Testament. So it's awesome. As I'm holding this, I'm kind of feeling like I should say more than it's awesome, because it's really changed my life. But straightway Jesus spake unto them, saying, Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. I just looked at this book as I said that, and that I didn't look at what verse it was or anything. I just started reading it in English, and that's what it says. Oh my gosh. This one says, Pero enseguida Jesús les habló, diciendo, Tened ánimo, yo soy, no temáis. That's called the Holy Spirit that just intersected on my video right now and intersected in my heart to like make me find that verse just randomly. I just opened this and just looked randomly, and that's the one I decided to read out loud. So hopefully you be of good cheer and be not afraid and get to know Jesus. Just read the Bible. Like even if you don't, I try to tell people, like, even if you aren't Christian, even if you think you have your mind made up, or even if you do have your mind made up, why not read the Bible? I mean, it's the most historic book, the most influential book in our culture. I mean, I come on. Like, we should all have read this. We should all have read at least the New Testament. Especially if you go to church, especially if you are a believer, you should know at least the New Testament. And if you need help with that, there's so much help reading it. I needed help with it, actually. I think that it was a daunting book to start reading. Like, when you just find a Bible and you start reading it, and even if it's in your own language, it's just like, what does this mean? I just opened up just randomly here. I just opened it up randomly. It says, Whereupon as I went to Damascus with authority and commission from the chief priests. You're not supposed to read it out of context. And that wasn't difficult to understand, but out of context, it doesn't not mean anything, but it doesn't make any sense out of context. But that's up to you to read and to interpret, and everyone's interpreted. And you interpret, like, it doesn't matter if it's the Bible or if it's this book. It does matter because there's a difference in the book. But if I read this book and if you read this book, we're going to interpret it in a different way completely, because they're two different people, right? So you read this book and just read it for yourself. And if you need help, there's so much help out there. And ask. I can help. Like I said, I've had help. I have somebody who I can just say, I read this. What's going on with this passage? Like, I need some help understanding this. Or I actually just started from the first page and went through not just one chapter at a time. We went through just 5 verses at a time. And I was just like, what does that mean? And, we were talking about it and openly talking about, what is that? That's what that means. Or, okay, that I think it means this. What do you think? And that is Bible study. And it's a beautiful thing. And I'm all for it. And I love Jesus. You should too. And I think that's all for now. It's a lot of books, but like I said, I have one that I read every day, and I have, or try to read every single day, and I have a few that I shared with you that I just got done reading. That was the point of this video. And then I have a few that I'm starting to read or listening to the audiobook, and my Spanish books. So, yeah, I like to read. I hope you do too. Thank you. Good night.